being, excuse me, being considered for the Wooden Award as college basketball's top player. And I guess that gets me to wondering, like, what is it that he did, and I think I brought this up last week, but what is it that he did that is so bad that they're saying that he has disqualified himself academically from participating in being considered for the Wooden Award? However, if his team had done well enough to participate in the NCAA tournament, he still would have been able to participate in the NCAA tournament. And now his team feels like they've kind of blown up and haven't done well, and they didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. And now they've decided that they're not going to participate in the NIT tournament, the consolation tournament, even if they're invited. I'm not sure that any of it is a great look. It's not a great look for Simmons. It's not a great look for LSU. It's not a great look for the coach from LSU. The whole thing is really less than good. And I don't understand how that guy got to the point where his numbers were good. His numbers were very good. He averaged, over 20 points a game as a freshman. He averaged like 12 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists. So you can't really argue with the kid's numbers. I mean, he is an outstanding player. He looks like a thoroughbred. He looks like an extremely clean-cut kid. So he's a good-looking athlete from that perspective. As I said, on a previous broadcast, no tattoos, looks like he has no earring, looks like he's just got a regular haircut. He lived internationally for a long time in Australia and then came here. So that usually, kind of like Kobe Bryant, usually suggests that he has a little bit more culture. I think his dad was a ball player. So he's got a lot of the right things that you would want to see on paper that you would say, hey, this looks like this could make him a performer and could really work. The problem is, though, that, what actually transpired on the floor for LSU, he had a couple of decent games. Not just a couple. He had several games where he did well. And they, as a team, had a couple of decent games, and they had a couple of decent wins in particular. In fact, they even beat Kentucky this year at one point. But overall, they just didn't have a great season as LSU, and I think folks expected so much more. You expect that one of the guys who's going to be one of the top ball players in the country can kind of lift and motivate his team. And it looks like, although he played well, he was never able to motivate those guys around him. Now, if I'm coaching a freshman and he's having trouble motivating the rest of the team, to me, that's not just a freshman issue. That's a coaching issue also. The coach clearly has to get involved in that. And I didn't see a coach who was actively getting involved in that and really making sure the other guys supported Ben the way he needed to be supported. I do think also for the folks who are voting, who control the Wooden Award, I think those folks have to take a step back and ask themselves, they need to define the purpose of the Wooden Award and what the intention is. Because if the purpose of the Wooden Award is to go to the best all-around college basketball player, or who everyone thinks is going to, or everyone who thinks, is the best player, or is potentially going to be the best player, or maybe it's the MVP of the team. I don't know how they define it. And it's kind of like having the discussion about the Heisman Trophy. Once upon a time it was the quote unquote the best college football player, and then folks said, okay, well, realistically, it's really just the best offensive player because they're not given to a whole lot of defensive guys, and maybe that's the case. Although basketball's a little bit different because you're offense and defense kind of up and down the court. But if it's for the best college basketball player, I think this guy Simmons is the best player. Whether or not he's doing everything off the field in terms of academics that they want, I just don't know how they say he's not doing enough to qualify for the award, but he is doing enough to play in the tournament. That really confuses me. That must confuse other people also, because to me that demands greater explanation as to what that is. But for the Wooden Award, I think they've done themselves a little bit of a disservice in terms of making that award even less relevant than it is. If you ask the average young person on the street, what the Heisman Trophy is, they know the Heisman. You meet chicks and they know that there's actually like, quote unquote slang lingo on the street where chicks are like, hey, I had to give him the Heisman, too. And basically they're like, I had to push away from dude. That's almost like a dating term now. That's just, a colloquialism at this point that they just use, as metaphors. So that's what the Heisman has become. The Wooden Award, the average, young person today, I don't even think knows who John Wooden is. Now, that may say something about them as young people, but it means that the award isn't that relevant. I think you make that award even less relevant when you decide not to award it to the ball player who is unequivocally the best ball player in college basketball. You know what I mean? So he played the sport. He should qualify for it. If he qualifies enough to be on the court, then he should qualify and be awarded that as the best player without consideration of other stuff. Unless you're saying that it's an other stuff award, then call it the other stuff award. Call it the all-around good guy award. Call it the best academic. Call it the best scholar athlete award. Call it something else. But don't say it's the award for the best college basketball player, because the best college basketball player this year, clearly it looked to me like it was Ben Simmons. I thought the kid from Oklahoma was pretty sharp. The guard, I thought he played well. The kid from Michigan State, I think, is decent, but I don't think Valentine is going to be a great pro. I think he looks like a good kid, a nice kid, but I don't think he's necessarily going to be a great pro. And I'm not convinced, although the kid shoots well from Oklahoma, the guard, I don't think he's really going to be the one who's going to necessarily get it done. There's people who are having fanciful thoughts that he's going to be the next Steph Curry. I think when you go next level, that he's not going to be shooting quite as well. So I just think that the Wooden Award has a chance is taking a chance at making themselves less relevant by not awarding this award this year to Ben Simmons. That being said, that's the Simmons thing. The other thing that caught a little bit of attention, at least staying in basketball for the moment, is that there was an incident this past week, one of several different incidents, not in college basketball, but going to pro basketball for a second, with our man Boogie Cousins, who continues to be a challenge, and his relationship with both his team, his coach, and otherwise. And, as I look at Boogie, I just say to myself, for a very, very talented guy, I just don't see the upside in him fighting with everybody when after a while, I think he's just doing damage to his brand. Now, clearly he's one of those dudes who really doesn't, quote unquote, care as much about his brand, supposedly. That's not what he's all about. He's definitely not about being popular. And I guess I kind of feel the same way I do as I look at a lot of athletes. Most of them don't really care, and they're willing to be ornery, and they're willing to be kind of, not everybody's friend and not that friendly with the media and what have you. And I'm cool with that. And Boogie, if that's where you're at, I'm cool with it. Do you? But, see other 7-footers for more details on that as to how that works out later in life. See Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Ask him how it worked out for him as he wanted to get coaching gigs. And keeps on wondering, well, why are all the coaching gigs, why is everybody passing me up? Well, you were ornery, you were kind of prickly, you weren't that friendly, you walked around kind of hanging your head, Pat Ewing, same kind of thing, weren't really, that warm, weren't that friendly, weren't kind of running around hugging the press. And then you're wondering why folks don't want to work with you. Boogie, do you? You don't have to be anybody's friend. But just don't look up and say, hey, how come nobody wants to hire me? How come nobody wants to work with me? Because I don't think that's going to be fair. So that's my thought there. I do want to change subjects and go to a new segment that we started last week called 6 Minutes. my God. Oh my God. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. Come on. Well, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. We did it. We didn't. Excuse me. Excuse me. Well, for 6 minutes, let me get into something that I want to talk about for a second here. Actually, it's going to be for 6 minutes, so it's going to be a bunch of seconds. But I want to talk for a few minutes about. I want to create a kind of a group category. I see some challenges across the board in the league in a few different places, across various leagues and in sports. And sometimes I think we just have athletes who go above and beyond just in terms of just, bad behavior, not being a good teammate, not being a good citizen in the game, and just not being good people that I think are easy to work with or appropriate to work with. And when I look at it all, I just say, I'm an old school kind of acronym guy. Haven't been in corporate America for a bit. The use of acronyms, something always kind of comes up, and use them here and there, put tags and labels on stuff, and put people in different buckets. And so I'm kind of using my corporate experience, and then trying to dip one toe into the young people's hashtag world. Everything's a hashtag. Hashtag this, hashtag that. And I just want to coin the phrase hashtag PBJ. Hashtag PBJ. And you might ask yourself, what is hashtag PBJ? Hashtag PBJ, similar to back in the day when Pat Riley coined the phrase three-peat. I think I'm gonna start coming up with hats, T-shirts, everything to say hashtag PBJ. Hashtag PBJ is going to be all about those folks who have distinguished themselves. And I've made a little list for my inaugural presentation of hashtag PBJ. But those folks who have distinguished themselves really, at the end of the day, as just pure breed jackasses. I mean, people, when you just look at their activities, you just say to yourself, what in the hell is this? Like, when is this going to stop? When this right here has to stop. Like, it has to be bagged, tagged, labeled, but it just has to stop. So here goes. Here's my inaugural list, and there'll be folks added to this list periodically. This is by no means an exhaustive list. Weekly, there's people who, could be and should be added to this list. But for my inaugural list, I want to recognize the good works of Mr. Vontaze Burfict. Vontaze Burfict from the Cincinnati Bengals. He has, this past NFL season, he injured a variety of people. He is a good player, but he comes with a pedigree from college as being one of the most penalized players in like the history of college football in the year that he came out. It affected his draft status dramatically. He was a first-round talent, got drafted much later because he was perceived as a problem and as a guy who was out of control, and he clearly is. He has, injured a variety of people, done late hits, cheap shots, twisted people's ankles, poked them in the eye, dove at people's knees, just a variety of foul stuff that just beyond just hitting people hard. There was the receiver from Pittsburgh. He, tried to take him out and gave him a severe concussion. I mean, just done stuff that I think even within the sport is like above and beyond the call. Just completely